Oops. Okay, I'm gonna let everybody in.
All 17.
There we are. It looks like everyone's making their way in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 2. Thank you for joining us. We'll let everyone get a chance to join the training. My name is Veronica Meach. I'm based in Sacramento, and I'm joined by our other wonderful advocacy colleagues across the state. You'll see Danielle and Nina and Jessica and Zoe, who ran our last training. So thank you all for joining. If you would like to let us know a little bit about yourself, we are asking you to share a hidden talent with us in the chat today, if that's something you would like to share. So I hope you all can think of something and share that with us today. My hope is that by the end of this training, you all have another hidden talent where you become masters of fact sheets. You can pull up information at the drop of a hat, and you can teach your fellow advocates how to do that as well. So I just see more folks are joining the meeting. We'll make sure that they get in. Let me get started here with what our goals are for today. So let's get to the next slide. Here's what we're going to accomplish for today. So we will do a very quick recap of what we covered in our previous session last month. So thanks to anyone who joined in August. And then we'll really go over some skills building today. So I just want to set some expectations that we are not expecting you to become a master of the bills that we talk about today. It's more about learning how to use the resources that the Alzheimer's Impact Movement and the Alzheimer's Association provide so that you can speak about our issues fluently, but really use this as a session to hone those skills, not necessarily to become an issue area expert. So we'll talk about how to use the AIM website, how to describe our issues, and then you'll get some breakout session time like we did last time to talk in smaller groups and practice these skills that Jessica will walk us through in just a minute. And then we'll have some next steps. So I'm going to hand it off to Nina Musavi to give us a quick recap of what we learned last time. Nina.
Everyone. So if you joined us for part 1 of this series, we dove deep into the key elements of storytelling. And these are really the basics when you're starting to put your story together. Of course, your story will meld and mold a little bit, but we wanted to give you a starting point to say, as you're crafting your story, these are the 4 elements that you are going to want to think about. So the first one here is authenticity. You are the owner of your story. You are the person who knows your story the best. And when you bring that authenticity to the table, there is no need to glorify or be hyperbolic as you're telling your story. Your authentic story is what matters. And when you bring that authenticity to the table, it's really makes a difference and pulls at those heartstrings of legislators and their staff. The emotion piece is element 2. This is a really emotional topic for a lot of people. And oftentimes it's our nature to hold those emotions back when we're talking about this topic with somebody who is maybe unfamiliar or new or a legislator, but really that emotion is so important to add to the conversation, to add to your storytelling piece. We try to teach you how to do it in a really controlled way, but I often tell advocates, if you feel like a tear might be coming on, take a moment, let it happen. That raw emotion is so impactful in your storytelling piece. And again, it brings everybody into the story with you in a way that really makes an impact on whether or not the legislator will support what we're asking them to support. The third piece here is sensory details. So we gave an example last time about how you can talk about what you're feeling as you're experiencing this with your loved one, or your significant other, your parent, your aunt, your uncle, whoever it might be. And one of the really great pieces of sensory details is it actually brings the story to the listener. So I could describe a situation where I was taking my loved one who's living with Alzheimer's to a doctor's appointment. And it was so hot. And I remember feeling the sun burning. And I remember thinking, I was in such a rush this morning to get my loved one ready. I forgot to put sunblock on and I could feel my forehead burning, right? That's a sensory detail as you're talking about the chaos of what a morning looks like when you're a full-time working person trying to take care of a loved one with Alzheimer's. That is the type of sensory detail that you can add in. And then the last element here is having a beginning, middle, and end. Whatever you choose as the timeline for the story that you're going to share, make sure it has a beginning, middle, and end. Your story might be a 15-year-long journey. It might also be a new journey. It might also be just a couple months old. Whatever that timeline is, you can decide to tell a story that fits into a 1 month or a 1 year time frame of your full 15-year journey. Or like I said, you could be at the beginning of it and your story might only be a couple months old. However that timeline fits, you wanted to have that beginning, middle, and end so that the listener can clearly follow it. It's very easy for us to sometimes get lost in the story and forget that beginning, middle, and end piece. So those are your 4 elements: authenticity, emotion, sensory detail, and beginning, middle, and end. As a reminder, this is a recap from our first storytelling training. We will make sure to send around the recording again if you missed it. But before I pass it off to my colleague, if you feel comfortable in the chat box, please share with us what is the element of one of these key storytelling elements that you feel maybe you'd like to work on as you're putting your story together. We'll give a minute for folks to share while I pass it off to my colleague Jessica, who is going to walk us through all of the various resources that we have.
Myself. Am I unmuted? Yeah. Hi, thank you so much, Nina. And hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Rothar. I'm the Senior Public Policy and Advocacy Manager for Northern California. And I want to start by saying that our public policy priorities generally fall into 3 big buckets. There's funding and accelerating Alzheimer's and dementia research, so we can figure out what causes the disease and how to prevent and treat it. There's improving care and support, which includes from improving medical care, the ability of medical professionals to do a better job of diagnosing and caring for people with Alzheimer's and dementia and supporting people living with the disease and their caregivers through the whole life course. And then the third bucket is public health, using the tried and true tools of public health to reduce risk and educate people about how they can protect themselves from Alzheimer's, and educating the community about how to recognize the signs in yourself or someone else and what to do if you think you see the signs. So those are the 3 big buckets. So going forward, what I'm going to do tonight is show you where to find and how to use 3 different levels of information on our advocacy website, moving from level 1, which is the least detail, the highest level overview, and moving to level 3, which is the most detail. so that you can understand and be able to communicate to others how our policy and advocacy work is moving us toward a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia, whether it's to your friends and family, to your legislators as an advocacy volunteer, or to churches and community organizations that you're involved with to help build the global movement to end Alzheimer's. So slide 5, the most important thing to know and be able to tell other people, including your legislators, is what is the problem that we're trying to solve and what is the specific policy solution that we're advocating for. And you are probably here because you already understand the problem better than anybody else because you're living it or you've lived it. So Veronica is going to share her screen, and we're going to dive in to the policies. But I do just want to really reassure you that as an advocate, you never need to be a policy expert. What you need to be comfortable with is sharing your why, the story that Nina just recapped that we went through in our first storytelling session, and then to be able to use our information tools to summarize the specific piece of the problem that a specific policy proposal is trying to address and to really connect it to your lived experience. So we're starting here on the AIM homepage, which you can see features our current campaign. And I just want to say AIM stands for the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, which is the Alzheimer's Association's grassroots advocacy arm. And as you can see, our top priority right now is to get Congress to pass 2 or 3 pieces of legislation, the National Alzheimer's Project Act reauthorization, or NAPA reauthorization, and the Alzheimer's Accountability Act. So to get to level 1 from the homepage, click on the Federal Priorities tab, and you'll see all of our federal policy campaigns listed in priority order. So what you'll find here for each campaign is how to answer, what would this bill do in 1 sentence, which is all most people want to know, right? People don't want to get overwhelmed with policy detail. They just want to get oriented. What is this about? So, for example, for our current campaign to strengthen the national response to Alzheimer's and dementia, the 1-sentence answer is NAPA and the Accountability Act would build on the progress made over the last decade by continuing to promote rapid research and improve care and support for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And as you can see, I sort of shortened it and used some of my own words. You always want to practice changing it into your own words and saying it in a way that feels natural and makes sense to you. So from level 1 to get to level 2, you click on Learn More. And now you have a whole page that's just about the NAPA and Accountability Act bills. And what you'll find here is more details about the campaign, such as under the NAPA Reauthorization Act, you see it would reauthorize the National Alzheimer's Project Act, or NAPA, which is landmark legislation that was signed into law in 2011. And then under the Accountability Act, you'll see that that bill would require the NIH to continue submitting a professional judgment budget to Congress to ensure research is funded at the levels needed to achieve the goals of the National Alzheimer's Plan. So that's a lot to unpack. And now you probably have a whole lot more questions like, well, what did NAPA do? And what's the national plan? And what's a professional judgment budget? So to answer those questions, scroll to the bottom of the page and open up the campaign fact sheet, which should be the first document linked at the bottom of every level 2 page for every campaign. So how to use the fact sheet. The fact sheet is what you're going to bring with you if you go to meet with your legislator as part of our advocacy teams. And it's what you're going to leave behind so they can read more about the details and you don't have to read the fact sheet. In fact, we really don't want you to be reading the fact sheet in a meeting. We want you to read it beforehand and be comfortable enough that you understand the basic ideas and talking points that you can be making eye contact while you're talking in your meeting, and you're just giving them the fact sheet to read later. So we do want you to focus on your personal story, the why this issue is so important to you. So you can use the purple headings on the fact sheets and the content under them as your cues or guideposts for summarizing the problem and the solution. So we're going to walk through what that would look like with this fact sheet. So the first section, what's the national plan to address Alzheimer's, tells you that the original NAPA legislation passed in 2011 created a national plan to address Alzheimer's, and that the plan has 6 goals. So before your meeting, you want to read this section and figure out how to summarize that idea in one sentence in your own words. And we're going to give you time today in your breakout groups to actually review the materials and practice doing that in your small groups. The second and third sections on the fact sheet on the right-hand side tell you that the national plan is driving advancements in Alzheimer's research, care, and support. So that's something you want to emphasize when talking about why the national plan and NAPA are so important to you. Now we're going to go to the second page, and the first section on the left explains what the professional judgment budget, also known as the Alzheimer's bypass budget, is. And I'm going to drill down into that a bit because there's not a lot of information even on the fact sheet. So the most important part is the second bullet in this section, which says current law requires NIH, the National Institutes of Health, to submit an annual Alzheimer's research budget proposal directly to Congress, bypassing the usual bureaucratic budget procedures. Now, what those procedures are is that for every federal agency, when they propose their budget, they have to send those numbers to the White House, and the White House, the president, get to decide, is this how much money I want to ask for in my budget, or do I want to change these numbers to fit with my priorities? So for example, if you have a president who wants to invest a lot of money in cancer research, but doesn't have Alzheimer's as a priority, they would potentially not ask for the full amount that the researchers at NIH are saying is what they need to take advantage and stay on track with the goals of the national plan. So it's that unique visibility into what the researchers at NIH are really saying that is what the professional judgment budget is all about. And it's why it's so important to make sure that we don't lose that ability. The final 2 sections at the bottom on the right side answer the question, so what's the problem and what do these bills do? The problem is that the NAPA and the bypass budget are both set to expire next year. Our solution is to pass the NAPA Reauthorization Act so we get to keep driving progress on Alzheimer's for another 10 years, and to pass the Accountability Act so we don't lose the bypass budget process. So I know that's probably a lot. I'm going to go on into level 3, and then in another minute and a half, we're going to open it up for questions. So now we're going to go to level 3, where you can get even more context and take an even deeper dive into these bills. To get there, you need to log into the AIM website. All of our advocacy volunteers should already have an AIM account and password. If you're an active advocacy volunteer and you don't have one yet, reach out to your public policy staff partner to get signed up. And if you're not an advocacy volunteer yet and would like to hear more about becoming one, and we'd love for you to join us, you can do that by going to our volunteer webpage at alzimpact.org volunteer and submitting a quick application. And Danielle's dropping that link in the chat. So once you're logged in, then you're going to click on the resources tab and you'll see folders for each campaign, again, in priority order. And when you open a folder, you'll see the same resources as at the bottom of the campaign page on level 2, plus 2 things that are not on level 2 on that public facing page. One is the background and talking points, and that's what we're going to double click on in a minute. The second is talking points for writing a letter to the editor about that issue. And those of you who are advocacy volunteers know letters to the editor are a really important way to get our issue out and in front of legislators and the public. But I'm going to focus right now on the background and talking points. So in this, you're going to see you get even more context, history about the national plan and the Accountability and Investment Act, and you get concise talking points for describing each of the bills. Normally, those concise talking points are also on the fact sheet, but in this case, there's so much backstory because there's the original bill, there's the plan, there's the bypass budget. You really need this background and talking points document to get to those 4 really helpful, concise talking points. So we highly recommend looking at the background and talking points document before any meeting with a legislator so that you really understand and feel comfortable. And then, of course, you're always welcome to email your public policy staff contact if you have any remaining questions at all. But please do know how to find these materials on your own. So now I'm going to stop talking and see if we have any questions before we give you time to practice finding and using this information to describe these bills. So, okay, I see lots of questions. Let's see. Oh, no. Do I see any questions? I don't see any questions yet. So what do you, tell me, what is this like? Is this just like overwhelming and you're going, oh my God, what is this? Was this helpful? Do you have questions about these bills? Do you have questions about where to find the information? Please either raise your hand. Okay, I see David Efros has raised his hand. So David, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
So it's sort of the quick question is that public facing gets as high as level 2, and then you need to sign in to get to level 3. Is that correct?
Right.
Great. And the thing you didn't show us, and again, this is for those who are newer, I'm a bit more experienced at this, was that you could see specifically what your legislator has or hasn't signed on to, and therefore you can be more targeted when speaking to your specific legislator. Am I correct in that?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
That there's a way for me, again, being a bit more experienced at this, I'm trying to describe more thoroughly for those who might be newer, I'm asking if there is a way to see what my specific legislator may have already signed on to and what specifically I might want to target if I'm talking to my legislator and or their staff.
Well, I assume you're giving us a nice softball to talk about the congressional profiles, and the answer to that is yes. And I don't know, Veronica, it looks like you're heading, do you want to just show people? For our advocacy volunteers, you can always go to congressional profiles and enter the name for your member of Congress, and then you will see if there is a different priority. You can see, so for Alex Padilla, one of our senators, he has not co-sponsored any of our bills. In fact, I will say ever since he was first elected to the Senate. So whenever you're sending something out on social media or a letter to the editor, let's all be sure to be asking Alex Padilla. He has signed on to a couple of letters supporting funding, and then the asks for him, if they are personalized, you can see them in that congressional profile. Let me go to Denise Johnson next.
Hi, my name is Denise Johnson. I'm new to not advocate, educator. So I said I'm on the wrong call, but it's interesting. I just want to listen and take in some of the information that is given out here. Like I said, again, I'm new to volunteering for Alzheimer's Association. So I really don't have any questions right now. I'm just taking it in. My husband, he passed away with Alzheimer, and I took care of him for 5 years. And I stopped work to take care of him. And so it's a passion of mine to be able to give back and help others that are going through. So I just want to listen for right now.
Well, thank you so much for volunteering and being a community educator, and for being interested in learning more about our public policy and advocacy, Denise. We're
Okay,
thrilled to have you.
thank you.
So if there aren't any, I don't see any other questions, but please feel free to drop them in the chat if they come to you, and let's move on to our breakout groups. Danielle's gonna walk us through what to do next.
Hi, everyone. So as Jessica stated prior, we're going to put you guys in breakout rooms so you can practice accessing those resources that she showed you all, level 1 through 3. And so we're going to put you all in groups of 3, and you'll all have 20 minutes before we pull you back into the main room. So to join your breakout room, you have to look at your screen and click join, whether it's on a phone or another device. When you enter, you can introduce yourself, your first and last name, where are you from, and then you're going to all work as a team to assign roles. So I will repeat these instructions in the chat when you join as well. So if you forget what I'm saying, don't worry, we'll send those your way again. But for the roles, one person should use the public-facing NAPA or AAIA page on the AIM website to pull one sentence that you think best describes NAPA. The second person should be using the NAPA/AAIA fact sheet to pull up one additional sentence that adds a deeper layer of information about NAPA. And then the third person should be using the talking points page that Jessica pulled up as well, once you sign in, to pull one other sentence to use as further background to make your case. So you'll compile all 3 of those sentences as practice in describing the problem, and explain the bill as you might to a friend or legislator. So when you have that time, make use of it, get to know each other, and I will put in the chat again all those instructions if you forget. But we'll start breaking you guys out now. Okay, well, I'll wait for the rest of everyone to trickle back in, but then we'll start sharing. Let us know any feedback about your groups. Not almost everybody. Okay, so does anyone or any group want to share kind of the sentences they pulled and put together?
I can give a little overview of my group.
Okay, sure.
I'm an experienced legislative advocate. Oh, it's like all of a sudden all these faces popped up in front of me. My 2 people are very new and have not done it, so it took a little bit more effort to find all the pieces parts. So I helped them understand how to take the information in those 3 areas to craft the story to tell a legislator. So.
Okay, perfect. Do you have the 3 sentences, or did you want to give any feedback since you're more experienced about that?
No, I think it's really helpful because I've done forum and state advocacy day, and
Okay,
I've done state advocacy day online. So like I've been around the block a few times, but I think I helped move their journey forward a smidgen. I hope.
good. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing and for helping and giving advice.
Yeah, that was a fast 20 minutes.
Yeah. Patrick, you have your hand up. You can come off mute as well if you want to share anything.
Yeah, let me I had to unmute there. I was just licking, saying hi, Danielle. How are you?
Oh, I didn't see your foot. Oh, hi.
Yeah,
How
I
are
just
you?
I opened my camera up. You know who it is. Yeah, we basically had this similar thing. New advocate, and mostly shared just about things like as a volunteer, asking your local rep, your local person like you to how do I get involved? How do I join any of the meetings with, say, like Katie Porter or Robert Garcia,
Mhm.
wait for emails on that, but to, as new to being an advocate, talk to your local representative from Alzheimer's, your AIM representative, and ask them different things on how to help, besides just trying to come up with sentences, as you were asking us to do.
Mhm.
Tried to do a little of that, but the person in my group was really wanted to learn about what we do more.
Okay, perfect.
So
Thank
we
you.
kind of
Yeah.
went over that more. But like I said, try and use some of your personal experiences, like being a caregiver for your mother, and when you took her to assisted living, what life experiences did you see in there, and how could you pick that out in the fact sheet to emphasize a certain area from the fact sheet?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's good to know where the resources are and to read up and get the basic ideas from each of the pieces of bills that we, send towards your way. But then in the next session, we're going to put it all together. So mixing your own personal story with, those talking points that we have. But
Yes.
thank you, Patrick. That's very helpful. Lucy, I see your hand up as well. Hi.
Hello. In the group that I was in, we had David and what's the other young lady's name? Say your name, young lady. But anyway, we did
Veronica.
Veronica. Okay, we had 2 sentences that we had put together out of the 3. The first one was the Napa Reauthorization Act. In Empire, the importance of healthy aging and risk reduction for Alzheimer's disease for all, including those in underrepresented populations. And the other, for the AAIA, we said we would like for you to commit to ensure that progress continues to be made in Alzheimer's and dementia research by renewing, and Veronica said for life, the AAIA.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. That sounds great. And then we'll connect it all to your story later on. But I think that's a good start for a lot of the people that are new. I think it's a good practice to just kind of familiarize yourself with what they are. I see a couple of more hands. Veronica, do you think it's okay to take a couple more questions, or do you want to
I think let's do one more and then we'll move on to just the wrap up so we keep people to time.
Okay, sure. I'll do Isa. I hope I pronounced that right. What's your question or comment?
Sorry, I struggled unmuting myself. Hi, I'm Issa. I'm from New Jersey. So I just wanted to say like the sentences that me and my group together. It was Karen and the other name is right here. Simrat, sorry. So we were able to get through all 3. The first one was the NAPRA Reauthorization Act aims to require the NIH to submit an annual budget to Congress to ensure sustained funding for Alzheimer's research. And the second one was the act addresses the lack of awareness in many communities which leads to often like inadequate care for people with Alzheimer's. And by okay, sorry. The act addresses the lack of awareness in many communities, which lead to inadequate care by promoting more research, knowledge, and support. One of NAPA's key goals is to effectively prevent and treat Alzheimer's by 2025, alongside with objectives like enhancing care, support, and public health awareness. So those are our 3 sentences put together.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I hope that practice session was helpful for you all. And thank you guys all for sharing and giving some, feedback for us as well going forward. But I'll hand it to Veronica to kind of close us off.
Thank you. I just have to say, I appreciate all the feedback and participation, and I loved all the mentoring that was happening in these groups. I hope you all feel supported by your fellow advocates, because that is one of the key things that we rely on in live meetings. I think it's just so nice to have practiced advocates. So, of course, we want you to come back for session 3. We'll include a link to that third and final session in just a minute. But we are in the midst of a week of action. Congress is back in session as of Monday, the 9th, and we are really trying to flood their social media channels, their inboxes with messages from advocates like you, sharing your story and really asking them to reauthorize all 3 of these bills. So we gave you a lot of language around that today. You know what your personal story is. If you can get that in a 30-second to a 1-minute video, and then post it to your social media account, tagging your legislator. I gave you 3 instructions right there, but any of us can help you figure out how to do that. Please consider doing that this week or into next week if you can't make the time for it. It's really important that our members hear directly from us, and this is what's going to help get these bills reauthorized before the end of the year. So you can imagine that all of these elected officials are going to shift their gears toward campaign season. So this week is really, really crucial. So we hope you'll join us. And I know there's a link in the chat for how you can access that through our video platform. If you want to record it directly on your phone and send it to one of us, here's our contact information. We can help with any hand holding. We can help you record. Again, if you record it on your cell phone, you can email or text us those videos at any point, and we can help get them out into the universe. So with that, I just want to remind you all that our 3rd session is a month from now. It's on October 10th, also on a Thursday. So we will meet back at the same time, 5:30, but you do need to re-register. So each one of these requires its own unique registration link. And as Danielle has said a couple of times, this will be our chance to really practice putting all of these skills together. So you learned how to tell your story through those key elements. You learned how to use some information through resources that we provide today. And then ideally in the 3rd session, you will be really practicing for how to do that in a legislative visit or a quick encounter with your members of Congress or state legislators. So please join us in a month, and we are here to help you in between. So please consider becoming an advocate if you are not already, and reach out to any one of us field staff who you met today, and we'll be happy to help you along your journey. So that is all for today, and I just want to thank you on behalf of our whole team for joining us, and we'll stay for a couple of minutes if anyone has questions. But for now, anyone who has to sign off, we understand. Thank you all.
Veronica, my name is Sharon Brown, and I was an advocate maybe 10 years ago,